we're emotional beings and we're supposed to have emotions and we're supposed to feel emotions, and
Mm,
emotions are not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength, and it gives us power. And in order for us to move and change and shift and release a lot of this stuff, we have to show our emotions. It's like we have so many things cooped up in our heads that we just need to get out and let out and purge and release and let go. And just writing things out is journaling is really, really impactful. And then I tell people, I'm like, take it a step further. It's like, okay, journal it, get it out, and then go and burn it. So then you're releasing it, letting it go. And because in order for us to truly love and take care of another person, it all starts within ourselves. And so learning to love ourselves first. And that would be the one piece of advice. It's like, just learn to, you don't even have to love yourself in the beginning, just appreciate yourself. It's like, what is
mm.
one thing that you can appreciate yourself about?
Welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Dahya. I'm so grateful that you're here listening to this podcast episode. Would love for you to share this episode with your friends, your family, and your workmates. And if you haven't already done so, please follow or subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes and we can get this podcast out to the wider community. Today's guest is Liza Lomax, who specializes in assisting high achievers to repair their mind, body, and food relationship, empowering them to release weight and not just the physical for good. With a passion for transformative wellness, Liza's commitment is to help them get to a place where they can look at themselves in the mirror and love what they see, and yes, even naked. Together, they embark a journey towards lasting well-being. Liza is also a holistic nutritionist, Reiki master, NLP, EFT, TFT, REBT. Oh my gosh, all the acronyms there, and the emotional intelligence practitioner and speaker. Liza struggled for many years with the stronghold of perfectionism, overachieving, people pleasing, and emotional eating, and now is determined to help folks in their battle as well as find their authenticity and love their reflection. Liza, welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me, Anthony. I'm so happy to be here.
Wow, that is just amazing. I've not read uh, an introduction like that. What are all those? I know what NLP stands for, but what does EFT, TFT, RBT, REBT stand for?
Most of them are like cognitive behavior therapies.
Right.
It's just a little bit different. I'm always the type of I love to learn, and I love to broaden my horizon with different things. And everybody is different. Not everybody is the same. And what one type of therapy might work for one person won't necessarily work for another. And so I like to keep my toolbox full of tools and modalities that can help people in multiple ways.
Absolutely.
EFT is actually emotional freedom technique. So it's the tapping.
Hmm.
I'm sure you've heard of tapping. Yes.
Yes.
And so yeah, so most of them, and then the CBT, the cognitive behavior therapy, emotional intelligence. Yes, I know. I have all the acronyms after my name because I like to learn. And so always constantly like,
Oh,
what's
that's all.
next?
That's all good because you've got all the right tools to be able to fix the problems that
Yes.
people have. So that's
Yeah.
great. So, Liza, tell us a little bit about your journey in life. Before we uh, go deeper into what you're doing now, I'd love to hear about your journey as a child, as a teenager, as an adult. What did you go
Wow.
through? What challenges did you face to become a champion in your own life?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Huh. How long is this podcast gonna be here? How long is this gonna be?
Let's get the summarized version of that.
Right, right, right. Well, I was the oldest of four, and I took on the role of being the parent. I took on the role of being the caregiver because whether my mother chooses to believe it or not, she does suffer from mental illness. My
Mm,
stepfather was never home, and my dad is from another country who I only saw limited times growing up. And so I took on that role of being the perfectionist, the overachiever, like I have to be, show how successful I can be in my own life for my siblings and take care of them and be there for
mm,
them, which then just sent me in a bigger stronghold of, okay, well, now I have to be perfect and I have to dress like this and act like this and talk like this and be like this and do all these things and I have to look like this and so I really learned how to master the art of putting on the mask and playing the role and playing the part.
mm,
And I was actually told that if I didn't do X, Y, and Z, I would not be successful. And so my idea of success was I have to achieve, 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 achieve. I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do that. And I can't, I have to do what they're all telling me I have to do and be and say and be like. And so that, set me on, I had a disdainment for myself in the mirror. So I struggled with body dysmorphia, which if some of you don't know what that is, it basically means you see a distorted version of yourself in the mirror. And so the
mm,
mirror was a big thing for me of looking at myself because I didn't like what was reflecting back at me because I didn't emulate what everybody else was telling me I had to be. And every time I looked in the mirror, I saw, this monster of a person. I also struggled with eating disorders. I also struggled with dieting, diet pills, diet shakes. I think by the ages of 14 to about 23, I did over 250 different diets.
wow.
And yes, like, it's a lot. I've been 100 pounds and I've been over 300 pounds, and it never mattered where I was on the scale. Like I said, I was always unhappy with who I saw in the mirror, my reflection.
Mm,
And even after losing 105 pounds at one time in my life, I still went back to the same habits, the same behaviors, the same beliefs that I had deeply ingrained in my psyche. And struggled with the emotional eating and been starved myself and then ate and constantly it was
mm,
like my emotions were all over the place.
mm,
And it wasn't until I really hit a rock bottom. And not everybody has to hit a rock bottom in their life. Not everybody has to get to the bottom rung of something. It's but in order to shift, I feel like in order for me to shift into the person I am today, I had to hit that rock bottom. So I did. And I went out and did all the things that most people think you have to do. You go out and do the therapy and you read all the self-help books. And, back then, like today, nowadays, it's like it's praised when we do self-development and we're really focusing on ourselves and we're taking care of ourselves and bettering ourselves for the most part. Back then, it was like you were hiding in the bookstore in the corner, hoping somebody didn't see you, wondering like, well, what's wrong with that person? They're reading
mm,
self-help books. There must be something wrong with them. And, I went out and I did all the studying. I did all, like followed all the gurus and it wasn't really until I really went inside and realized that it's an inside out job
mhm,
and that we have to take care of what's going on the inside first
mhm,
before anything else can change on the outside. And a lot of us, especially women, we think we need to change the outside in order to be happy, in order
mm,
for fulfillment, and which really it's the opposite. It's like once you take care of all the emotional and the mental and the spiritual and the psychological baggage that we hold on to, if what you desire is to drop the weight, then that will happen once you release that other baggage.
absolutely, absolutely. Totally agree.
And yeah, and so really all emotional eating in is and really all that, if somebody's been stuck on the yo-yo diet train their entire life, trying the latest, greatest this like I had, like, oh, well, the go-to the quick fixes and like, oh, I gotta look a certain way on the outside because society tells us, I mean, and we still see this in society that, oh, you have to look this certain way or you have to dress a certain way. It's getting better, but it's getting more into a positive light, but it still is kind of lacking in that area.
mm,
But really all emotional eating is just a manifestation of what somebody doesn't want to have a heart-to-heart, face-to-face conversation about.
mm,
The weight is just the manifestation of them not wanting to deal with what's really going on underneath the surface
mm,
and reaching and grabbing for all the latest, greatest this and the quick fixes and "Oh, I'll just try this because it worked for this person, or I'll just try this because it worked for that person." Isn't necessarily gonna work for you. And
mm.
so that's why I have, again, all those tools in my toolbox because there's an array of different ways
Yeah,
of coaching and helping people work through a lot of the trauma that we hold on to so deeply.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Liza, you specialize in helping overachievers and perfectionists prioritize themselves and break free from the unhealthy habits like emotional eating and negative self-talk. What are some of the key mindset shifts or practical strategies you use to help your clients make that long-lasting change in both their personal and professional life?
Oh, there's a whole list, but really the things that people should focus on is forgiveness is one thing. And not just forgiveness of people, it's forgiveness of yourself
Mm,
and forgiving all the things that have gone wrong or haven't gone to your expectations, or just everything in general, forgiving yourself about. And then
mm,
having a level of gratitude, like think of all the things that you have in your life that maybe your neighbor doesn't have, or the person down the street, or some people all over the world. I mean, I the first thing I do when I wake up every single morning is I rattle off as many things as I can think of as possible that I'm grateful for. To the pillow under my head, to the blankets covering my bed, to a hot shower, to the clothes I get to wear, the food in my belly. I mean, there's just like so many things that we take for
mm,
granted. Breathing, what
mm,
our bodies do for us.
mhm,
There's so many things that we tend to ignore because it's just, oh, it's just there. It's like, but this body that we're in is our home, and it's the only home we've got.
mm,
And so doing what's necessary to take care of your home so that you can stay in it longer should really be your
mm.
ultimate mission in this world. Take care of
Totally,
your home.
absolutely. Yeah,
So there's
absolutely.
just
No,
there's
I
just
totally agree.
there's just a handful of things that people can really focus on, is the gratitude and the
Mm,
forgiveness, and really, you don't even have to love yourself. You just have to appreciate yourself. Get to a point where, okay, well, at least I appreciate this about myself. Eventually that will turn to love. It takes a
mm,
little while, but just appreciating yourself. So I would say off the top of my head, those are the three things: forgiveness, gratitude, having gratitude, and really appreciating yourself.
mm. Yeah, I totally agree. So, in your work as a medium and intuitive healer, how do you integrate the energy healing and spiritual tools like EFT and LP and channeling to support your clients over emotional barriers and fostering self-love?
There's some key points that we have to really focus on. We have to focus on the emotional baggage that we carry on, the mental baggage, the psychological baggage, and the spiritual baggage. Whether
Mm,
religion was thrusted upon you or you were forced to believe something that you really don't believe in. Your most of the time, our belief system is a old paradigm way of thinking. It's been passed down from generation to generation to generation. And so what
mm,
we believe doesn't necessarily what we were intended to believe in the first place.
mm,
And so a lot of times people are spiritually traumatized based on that. And so using energy healing work to clear up a lot of that, the negative, discombobulated energy we have in our bodies, the emotions that we carry on, the all just all that excess, again, baggage that we hold on to. And I feel that those are necessary to get on a much deeper level. Most health and wellness coaches out there only focus on the mental and the physical.
Mm,
Well, there's a lot more than just the mental and the physical. We're emotional beings and we're supposed to have emotions and we're supposed to feel emotions, and
mm,
emotions are not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. And it gives us power. And in order for us to move and change and shift and release a lot of this stuff, we have to show our emotions. We
yeah.
have to be emotional, as they would say, in
Mm,
order to shift things, in order for things to happen. And so getting on a much deeper level with people really creates that long lasting, sustainable lifestyle that they really truly desire going forward. It's
mm,
really an evolutionary, transformational journey that they go through if you take care of all that excess baggage that's being dragged along with you.
yeah, yeah. It is so true. We are emotional beings, and
Yeah.
for a long time we've been told not to be emotional by our families, right?
Mhm.
And it is so important to be able to connect, because when it, like you said, you have thoughts, but then you have emotions. Those thoughts create feelings and emotions, and you've got to feel those. If you don't feel them, then yeah, that's
Mhm.
where you're not aligned in your mind, body, soul.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you talk about mind body connection, especially for womenpreneurs or solopreneurs who tend to neglect their well being. What role does self care play in achieving holistic success, and how do you help your clients balance their well health and with their business goals?
Well, self-care is it's not just this luxurious thing where you go and do mani-pedis or you go and get a massage or you go and treat yourself. Yes, that is a form of self-care. Self-care is really a radical act of prioritizing our well-being, and it's
Mm,
treating ourselves with love and care that we actually deserve.
mm,
And self-care is self-respect. Self-care
mm,
is self-love. It's
mm,
being in tune with every aspect of yourself. It's meeting your needs where they need to be met. It's taking care of your mental and physical health. And when especially womenpreneurs, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, anybody who is a business, is in the business of selling themselves or selling a product or service or anything, any of that stuff. If they're putting all of their time and effort and energy into their businesses, their first of all, their business would not thrive without them. Your business
mm,
would not exist without you. So
mm,
if you're not prioritizing yourself and putting yourself numero uno, if you're not putting yourself number one, then your business is going to falter. Your business is going to start to fail. And that's where a lot of women come to me, over the overachievers, the perfectionists, all of them, they're like, hey, my business is starting to suffer now. And it's like, well, because you're not prioritizing yourself, because you're the main product, you're the main service, you're the one that's the delivery of the goods, the delivery of whatever package they come in, you're the deliverer of whatever it
mm,
is that you're providing. And so if you're not prioritizing your health, your well-being, if you're not putting yourself first, if you're not taking care of your home, then everything else is going to fall apart around you, including your business.
mm, mm, mm. Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. So was there a particular turning point in your journey that you realized that you wanted to help others in this way of transformative wellness coaching?
I always knew from being very small that there was always I knew that, and I feel like big part of me was just kind of running away from that. But I always knew that I was not, my mission in this world was to help people learn how to love themselves, to
Mm,
transform themselves with love, through love. And I always knew that my mission, my mission was to guide people. I'm here to be a guide. And however that shows up, that shows up.
mm,
And so I've always had that intuitive innate tune that I'm like, okay, I'm here for bigger and better things, even though my life kind of took turns and twists and turns and pitfalls and stumbles, and I maybe took the road I didn't want to travel at one time, but at least it eventually got me to where I'm at now, and being able to help people in a way that
mm,
on a much deeper level, because a lot of the people that come to me I mean, first of all, we all have very similar stories. We all have very similar situations. We're all connected. That's just the thing. It's like we're all
right.
connected.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're like thousands of miles away and both of us are thousands of miles away and we're still connected.
Mm,
So there's because of that, it's like, that we there's just there's we just have to take care of things in a certain way, and I knew that I was the facilitator of that. I knew that I was one of the people and put in this world to be the facilitator of
mm.
helping people master that,
Yeah,
however way it is. Yes.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, we've been called to help others because, like you
Yes.
said, we are all connected. We are collective conscious, um,
Yes.
and uh, and one of the reasons why this podcast is called the Champion Mindset Collective is because it is a collective. It's we are connected, and
Yes.
we guide each other, we help each other, we champion each other,
Yeah.
we cheer each other on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think back in the days, that's how it used to be, but now it's become so we're
Yes.
just so detached from each other, right? In that way,
Yeah.
and it's time to start being a community and start being
Yes.
a collective again. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that will and I mean, I believe in the whole masculine, feminine. At the moment, it's very structured, the world, but there needs to be more feminine energies coming through to
Yes.
kind of drive
Yes.
that forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so, why do you think that high achievers struggle with self-acceptance, and how do you guide them forward?
Well, overachievers are just people that, that are like, they're the perfectionists, the people pleasers. They're the ones that either they've been told they have to go, 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 or do. They have to do this and they have to do that, and they can't do this unless they're successful, and they can't do this unless they achieve this, and they can't do this, and that's based on society, the environment, maybe the way that they were raised, how they grew up, that kind of thing. And so when we're in a constant mode of high achieving and overachieving, we are putting everything else first, like
Mm,
everything else outside of ourselves first, and doing all the things to reflect what we want to see back at us, when in actuality it's again the complete opposite. It's like we have to go within ourselves, take care of ourselves, what's going on underneath the surface, take care of
mm,
ourselves, and and then deliver the goods or deliver whatever else to the world. And we overachievers and perfectionists have it backwards. And again, it's again, it goes back to that old paradigm way of thinking. It goes back to our old belief system. It goes back to our parents and our parents' parents and so forth and so forth. But I mean, it's not their fault because they only had the tools at the time that's all that they knew of. And so they thought
mm.
that they were just instilling these, this way of thinking, when really it was just generational trauma, and so it's just been passed down, passed down, passed down, and
That's
passed
down.
down,
Yeah.
and then manifested into something bigger and wider and that kind of thing. And so, when you know especially overachievers and perfectionists, it's like always constantly always going outside. Like what can I take care of outside? Like what can I how can I
Mm.
how can I better myself, or how can I find fulfillment, or how can I achieve? Because achievement comes outside of myself. We've been conditioned to believe that it's outside of ourselves when it's not. Everything again goes
It's internal.
in the inside. It's always inside.
Yeah.
Everything
Everything is
within us
inside.
that can change is inside. Yes. Yeah.
Well, we are of what we are a reflection of what we put out, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
whatever energy we put out is reflects back to us, and that's why in
Yes.
relationships and business and personal relationships, people project things on, and then that reflects back onto them, and then they go, "Well, that person did that to me," when it actually no, it wasn't, because your energy, what you put out, was actually just mirrored back to you, and you're
Yes.
just not aware that
Yes.
you've got these insecurities or these traumas that
Yeah.
yeah. And for me, it's been a massive journey, um, of healing through all of that stuff and really accepting it,
Yeah.
acknowledging it, and forgiving myself and forgiving my family and everyone
Yes.
and until you let go, you can't move forward. And because
No.
it's going to keep dragging you along, you've got
Mm-hmm.
this weight
Mm-hmm.
behind you, and you're trying to, it's like a
Yep.
ball and chain. You're trying to move, but it's like you can't.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So could you share a success story with your client, who made a significant change, shift in their self-perception and their journey and transformation?
Oh, my favorite one, and I do share this a lot because it just is my favorite one, and it really is part of my own story too. Is I helped a woman that had pretty much gone her entire life. I don't know how she did it, but had really gone on her whole entire life. She hated her picture taken. She hated anything with herself in it. Always criticized herself in photos, and she had a lot of abuse and a lot of trauma growing up, and just didn't want her picture taken. And she'd always volunteer to be the person to take the picture, or you'd see her in the background and you'd just see her little face, just part of her little face sticking out. And, to go through that for so many years, you're to miss out on so many memories and so many missed opportunities of having, being happy and being, whatever the situation was at the time. She'd gone her whole entire life missing out on so much. And so we started coaching together, and I gave her some tools. And I'm all about baby steps. I'm all about taking things in very small increments, because we live in such a society where we're like, we have to go, go, go and do, and we want the quick fix and just the easy button and doing this. And it's like, well, okay, well, how's that working out for you? Because you keep falling backwards and keep falling backwards and keep falling backwards. And so if you take things in smaller chunks and in smaller increments, baby steps, then it starts to pile, it starts to pile on and pile on and pile on, and then it is more solid. It's more of because you have to have that solid in order for things to start shifting and changing, and in order for it to really stick. And so I gave her a few things, and of course she was resistant at first and didn't want anything to do with them, like, for example, looking at yourself in the mirror and, telling yourself I love you, or telling yourself something. And then I said, just look at yourself in the mirror. You don't even have to say anything, or just look at your eyes. Pick a feature on your face that you want to just focus on. And that was just an example of one of the tools that, we walked through together. And I remember the day that she messaged me one day, and she said, I had my picture. She goes, first of all, back up a little bit. It says, I don't know what you did to me. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, what did I do? I'm like thinking like, oh my gosh, I did something. What? All these thoughts were coming to my head. And she said, I had my picture taken today. And the first thing I thought was, I am beautiful. And I thought, oh my gosh. I'm like, here's a woman who's gone her entire life. She's in her late 50s and has never thought she was ever beautiful. And here she says, I had my picture taken, and the first thing I thought was I was beautiful. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she's like, you did that. And I'm like, no, 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 you did that. I was just the guide. I was just a facilitator. I was just the person that held your hand and walked with you through that process. You're the one that got yourself there. You're the one that changed your mindset. You're the one that shifted that belief about yourself, that you didn't love yourself or you didn't like yourself and you hated yourself in pictures. And still to this day, she sends me pictures with the caption of look how beautiful I am.
Mm,
And I'm like, that's my story. It's like for me, it's like I would look in the mirror all the time and I would hate what saw. I've even punched mirrors before because I didn't like what I saw. I avoided mirrors. And so that was part of, I mean, a picture, video, it doesn't matter. The mirror, it's still a reflection of what you see, and to go so many years and then all of a sudden it's just to have that shift is very transformative. And I
mm,
love telling that story because it's so many people can relate to it. I'm like, how many times have you had your picture taken where you're probably like, oh my gosh, probably criticizing a few little things, or oh my gosh, I probably have to lose a couple pounds, or I don't like that color of that shirt that I'm wearing. Or, I mean, it's like, it doesn't matter how you identify. We all look at ourselves either in pictures or in video or even in the mirror, and we nitpick at all the little imperfections because we're conditioned that way. We're wired, we're brainwashed that way,
yeah,
programmed
yeah,
to go to the negative.
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting
Yeah.
because, like, just like uh, recently, I had some psoriasis on my legs, and went down to the like when you go to a doctor and they just give you a cream to put on it and stuff, right?
Yep.
But then I went down to a health shop and I said, look, I've got this thing, and I said, well, what do I do? And he says, well, first of all, what's your gut health like? I'm like,
Oh,
what's it got to
yes.
do with my gut health? And he says, and the guy says,
A
well,
lot.
what? And so often we think it's just external stuff, right? And then and I said, oh, well, I'm I eat this, and he says, do you eat gluten? I said, yes. He said, try reducing or cutting out gluten, and then he showed me
Mhm.
what happens. And um, what I've noticed is that since I've been gluten free now for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I've seen some different changes in my how I feel, and he gave me
Good.
some
Yes.
some capsules to improve my gut health. Because the other thing was I used to get acid reflux, and you go to a doctor and they give you these pills to reduce the acidity, but what that does is that the bacteria then moves up to your esophagus to because
Yep.
it's not getting enough acidity. So it
Mm-mm.
starts, and so it's like we go we do things in our outer world when really
Yeah.
everything is a reflection from the internal. And if
Yes.
you're
Yes.
whatever you're eating, and that saying, whatever you put inside you is what you become, right? What
Hmm.
you eat is
Yeah.
who you become. So, like I said, my 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 daughter's mum used to say to her, "Well, if you eat McDonald's, you're going to end up becoming McDonald's," because like a burger.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's so true, like, and one of the things I say to my clients is that, like, often things have become so overwhelming for people, right? Because
Mhm.
they have a goal and it's like, well, how can I even achieve that? Because it's so overwhelming. And also you hear people like Tony Robbins go, take massive action, and that scares the crap out of people, right?
Yeah.
So the way I say to my clients is that what is your goal? What is something that you want to do, achieve? Let's break that out into quarters. Let's break that out into
Yes.
monthly goals. Let's break that out into weekly
Yes.
goals. And then what is one simple thing you can do every single day that has that
Yes.
compounding effect? And eventually you'll get that, because the thing is, it's like money. If you start putting money, saving or an investment, that compounding effect eventually grows. So it's the same in our
Hmm.
lives. The more you consistently do something and the more competent you get at it, you'll build more
Hmm.
confidence in yourself.
Yes.
And the more
Yes.
motivated you're going to be, But often people go, well, I
Yes.
want to get motivated so I can do this. Well, no, motivation doesn't come until you
You
take action.
Exactly. Yes. Same with confidence. You don't gain confidence until you actually do the things. It's like
Exactly.
you can't say, well, I just want to feel confident. It's like, well, you're not going to feel confident until you actually do the things. You can't
Exactly.
just feel confident because if you sit and feel, if you're like, I'm going to feel confident today. Okay, well, how's that working out for you? Like, it's like, it doesn't, it's never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You have to do the things.
Yeah. And I also think that though, um, often people don't take the action is because the self-worth, right? So
Yes.
so it's
Yes.
about really healing through that self-worth and sitting, observing yourself and going, what is happening for me? It's not happening to me, it's happening for me. What's the
Yes.
feedback? What is fear telling me? What is this fear? What message is fear delivering to me that I can take on board
Yes.
and I can then move forward? What what am I anxious about that I
Yeah.
need to stop being anxious about? Why don't I just focus on the present moment and just focus on
Yes.
taking that one little action that's going to move you one little increment forward. But eventually, 1% better every day is
Yes. Yeah.
365% better every year, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. 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 I mean, and that's me too. I've gotten to the point where, like we all like healers need healing, coaches need coaching, we all need a little, we know we all have, we're all layers. And once we think we've healed one layer, another layer comes up, or something else comes up. So it's like we're constantly growing and evolving and changing. And, even though I've been doing what I've been doing for so long, I still have things that come up in my everyday life. I still have things that come up and that need to be healed or need to be, re-examined or need to be shifted, or I need to take a different way to work through that, and the same way that I've been doing isn't working anymore, so let's take a different way. And I went through my own this past year. I went through this huge transformational shift and this huge healing. I call it the PhD of healing. And I went through this whole process that really opened my eyes you know, to really being very present in the moment, being very unattached to things, like not attaching myself to something. It's like every day I wake up, it's like, okay, well, how can I just take care of me today? Like, what do I just focus on today? Like, what can I accomplish today? What can I do today? It's like the past is the past. There's no need. We can't change the past. And we can't connect to the future because it doesn't exist. It's like the future changes every second of every day based on our decisions and choices that we make.
We
So
shift
it's like we
identities
can't,
every, yeah,
right. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So we can't worry about the future because it doesn't exist. It's never going to exist because it's constantly changing. And then the past, it's like there's no reason for you to stay in the past because it's you can't change it. So the only thing that the best possible thing that we can do on our everyday life is just to be present in the moment and focus on just being in the moment present.
That's right.
That's the most important thing that we can do for
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah. Eckhart Tolle, in his power, the book Power of Now, says we only have the
Yes.
present moment. And
Yes.
if we stay
Great
present,
book.
that is,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm finished and just finishing it off at the moment. And it's so true because like um the way I think about it is, and Tony Robbins says this, if you're driving a car and you're looking in the rearview mirror, what's going to happen? You're going to crash, right?
Yes.
And if you're driving a car and you've got a corner coming up, say 100 meters ahead of you, you don't worry about that corner. You worry about what's in front of you there and then.
Mhm.
When you get closer to the corner, you'll see what's coming around the corner. So,
Right.
whereas if you're sitting there worrying about what's going to come around the corner, you're just going to be anxious, right? So,
Yep. Hmm.
so it's about letting go of the past, but not just letting go, but rewriting your past in the present moment. Because
Yes.
your
Yes. Which is
subconscious
possible.
mind,
Yes.
yeah, because your subconscious mind, has that programming from the past, but it only ever knows about the present moment. It
Mhm.
doesn't know about the future, but it does know
Mhm.
the program that's been given, and it does know what the present moment is. So in the present moment, if you upgrade your software
Mhm.
and to the latest version of the software, then you won't have the glitches, you won't have bugs, you won't have any
Yeah.
of that stuff.
Oh,
You won't have all the anxiety, you won't have all the fear. And if even the
mhm.
fear does come along, it's a friend, it's giving you some feedback, and you just say,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you, and I'm going to take some action on that, whatever the
Yes.
action is,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fear is just feedback. Fear is just like it's like when we fear, like when we're not hitting something. I mean, it's all just everything in around us is just feedback of what, okay, well, if this isn't working, well, let's try something else. But a lot of
exactly.
people get stuck in the thought that, oh, well, if that's not going to work for me, it's never going to work or
Mm,
nothing's going to work. And so then they
yeah,
give up.
yeah,
And that's what usually what happens is
yeah,
people just give up
yeah,
and they think that they're never going to accomplish their goals. But I'm like, your goals can constantly, I mean, set a new goal, set a new, I mean, it's like once you, I mean, really, when you set a goal, it's like, okay, well, I've set a goal to win the lottery. I've set a goal to win the lottery. Well, then you get to that spot and you haven't won the lottery yet. It's like, okay, well, it's still a goal. That doesn't mean that it's non-existent. It's still a goal. So maybe set a more attainable goal, like,
yeah,
like I'm going to manifest $5 and then you go into your old coat and you go to put on your winter coat and you reach in your pocket and oh my goodness, there's $5 in there. I mean, it's like something as
exactly.
simple as
Yeah,
that. It's like,
yeah.
but we
Oh,
think that
we overcomplicate things sometimes, and also,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
and it's like um, often we set goals just for the sake of setting goals.
yeah,
Right? And I was listening to a podcast yesterday where this guy was saying that he doesn't set goals anymore. He sets vision. He sets a vision and he works towards that
yeah,
vision. But he sets micro goals to move him closer to that vision. Like
yeah,
like for me, for example, I want to be an international public speaker or and an influencer. So what
yeah.
was the step that I took? Well, podcasting is a step towards that goal. And
Mm-hmm.
what can I do every day? Well, I can have podcast interviews every day, and
Yeah.
and I can take consistent action. Like last week, in 3 days, I did 8 podcast interviews.
Wow. That's a lot. Yes.
So I've got right. And today, you're the second person that I'm interviewing.
Yeah.
From a public speaking perspective, okay, what action can I take that's going to move me closer? Well, I've joined Toastmasters, and I'm honing my
Yeah.
skill. Now, what can I do within Toastmasters to actually practice the content that I'm going to be speaking about in the future? Well, what I do is I take my
Mm-hmm.
podcast episode that I've recorded of my own, I condense it down into a 5 to 7 minute speech, and I deliver that. And then I do that
Mm-hmm.
consistently so that it gets ingrained into me. And then
Mm-hmm.
one day when
Mm-hmm.
I'm in that on that international stage, I don't need notes. It just flows because I'm
Comes. Yeah.
programming
Yep.
myself to become, and I'm being that person right now in this present moment.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
if you don't start, you don't finish.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. You just have to start somewhere. It's like it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this big grandiose like thing. It's like again, it goes back to what I like to do, baby steps. It's like you just take a little step here and a little step here and a little step here. It's like, okay, well, today, how am I going to take care of myself? Or what do I need to do today just for today? Like,
mm,
what do I need to work on just for today? Not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, just today. Like, how can
mm,
I take care of my human? Like, because that's we're our human. We're our own human. It's like we're the spiritual beings having a human experience. This is our home. This is our body. It's this meat suit that we're in right now, temporarily. How can I take care of me today? What can I do? You know?
absolutely.
And
Go
yeah,
for a walk,
yeah,
connect with nature,
yeah. Go for a walk. Yes, yeah, yeah.
eat something that you really love. That's hopefully healthy. um,
Right, right.
do something that you're really passionate about. Do something that excites you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, brings you joy, brings you
Brings you
happiness.
joy.
That's after all, that's all what we aim for is we want to be happy, we want to be fulfilled, we want to have joy in our lives. We want to just feel the love and feel the happiness. And it's like, okay, well, how can you make yourself happy just today or
Yeah.
just this hour? Like, what can I do today just
Isn't
to
it
feel
interesting though?
happy?
Isn't it interesting though that if you did more of what you really enjoy, what excited you and brought joy, imagine who you would be.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to we've been programmed to believe something else. Like everything else is external, everything else is outside
Mm,
of ourselves.
mm,
And it's my mission, it's your mission, it's like everybody else's mission is just like, okay, well, how can we just to show people that it's inside. Like everything we need is literally
yes, inside.
inside of us. And we can heal ourselves just like like your gut. It's like you started taking out gluten and now you realize there's some changes going on. It's like you're healing yourself from the inside out. And it's
Absolutely.
manifesting because I'm sure it's starting to go away and you can feel a lot
It
better.
feels a
You're
lot better.
feeling a
Yeah.
lot better. Yes, yeah.
Mm,
So it's like everything that we need to take care of ourselves is inside of us. And so if we just reprogram ourselves and decondition and reframe the beliefs and the habits and the stories and all the things that we tell ourselves,
mm,
then we can get on that path of where we really truly want to be fulfilled and have joy and have peace and love
mm,
and be in that state. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, Liza, is there any specific techniques that that you use with your clients to help them break free from that perfectionism and people pleasing?
I mean, there's a bunch of different things. One of the things that I love to walk people through, and as coaches, I mean, we all use a lot of the same material, but we put it in our own little packages, our own little present with our own little bows and our own little spin on things.
Mm,
And like Louise Hay and Lisa Nichols and Mel Robbins do mirror work. And mirror work is very impactful, and we
mm,
don't realize how impactful it really is. And so I do something very similar. I do mirror work, but I take a different spin on it because I'm a science nerd. So I like the science behind, and science and spirituality, we know, go hand in hand. They're very intertwined. And so one of the things that what I tell people to do is like I just told my client, it said in my story that I told about my client was that go to the mirror and just say, I love you.
mm,
Now, some cultures um, don't say "I love you" to themselves. I've come
mm,
across that in some other cultures and some other countries and things like that. And I said, well, just go to the mirror and say "I appreciate you" or "I
mm,
appreciate this" or "I like you" or say something nice to yourself. The thing about "I love you" is that we can say "I love you" to every single person in this world except for ourselves,
mm.
because again we learn that it's selfish to take care of ourselves, it's selfish to put ourselves first, it's selfish to prioritize ourselves. And
Mm,
we if we love ourselves, that means we're a narcissist. If we love ourselves, that means that we're full of ourselves or we're cocky or we're no. It's like we have to love ourselves first, because we can't truly love or take care of another person until we can love and take care of ourselves first.
totally. Mm,
And so going to the mirror and saying, I love you. And what happens is that eventually, so science says that when you're attracted to something or someone, your pupils actually dilate. So if you consciously with intention say you've lived in this lived in a world where you don't love yourself, you're really hard on yourself, you're constantly putting yourself down, whatever stories you're telling yourself, whatever beliefs you have about yourself, and you start going to the mirror every single morning and saying I love you, and you start to notice your pupils dilating, That means that you are overriding all those beliefs and habits and those stories of not loving yourself. That's science. Science says that
Mm,
if we're attracted to something or someone, our pupils dilate. So
mm,
if a person out there, so I always tell people like I'm going to challenge you for the next 5 days, just for the next 5 days, go to the mirror every single morning and say, I love you. Now, your pupils, the things aren't going to shift that quickly, but can see how your body feels after within the last 5 days. Really like hone in on like be very mindful like how your body is, how your body's responding, and then just keep doing it. Because if you continuously keep doing it and you start to notice your pupils dilate, that means you are overriding all those negative thoughts about yourself.
mm,
That's science.
mm,
So that's a huge thing. That's a huge
mm,
shift when a person can actually see, physically
mm,
see something
mm,
shift. Then they know they're like, oh, wow, this is really impactful.
mm,
So just something as simple as that. But again, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. We can't lose a habit overnight. We can't gain or lose weight overnight. It doesn't happen. It's like you have to consciously and with intention continuously do it over and over and over and over again for it to sink in, for it to rewire, for it to reframe that belief. And if
yeah.
you physically see that, that means that, yeah, again, it's like you have physical evidence that you actually love yourself. That's
Mm,
huge.
mm,
But again,
mm,
it takes time for that to happen. So that's one of the tools that I tell people. I'm like, let's start getting you just looking at yourself in the mirror. Just focus on one feature of yours that you like. You don't even have to look at from your neck down. You don't even have to look at your body. I mean, my whole goal is to help people look at themselves, like you said, look at themselves in the reflection in the mirror, even naked, because come on, like a lot of people don't like to look at themselves in the mirror or even look at themselves naked. So we like to be able to like just pick a feature of yourself, like I
mm,
like my eyes. Okay, well just concentrate on your eyes. And then
mm.
eventually what will happen is you'll go on to another, you'll start to see that,
Other
oh,
part of your
my
body.
eyes are really beautiful. Oh,
Mm,
well, I like my cheeks, or I like my lips, or I like my
mm.
nose, I like my ears. Eventually you'll start to really see yourself how other people see you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it takes time.
It takes time, absolutely. Because you're breaking all that programming from childhood.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
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 So we've talked about a lot of different things like overeating, emotional eating, perfectionism, people pleasing, and not loving yourself, self-care. What are some of the first steps that you recommend people who are feeling trapped in these cycles can do?
Well, just first of all, know that you're not alone. There
Mm,
are people out there that specialize in this, that have been there, that have very
mm,
similar stories. You're not alone. And r- i- if you want change to happen, you have to want change to happen.
mm.
Person can't just say, "Oh, I'm just going to change." It's like prime example, like what's coming up, like January 1st. What happens January 1st?
Everyone makes,
Everyone, yes,
yeah,
everybody's like, I'm going to do the things and I'm
New
going to
Year's resolutions.
change my way of, yes, I'm going to change the way of thinking and I'm going to find the love of my life and I'm going to lose those 20 pounds and I'm going to do this and do my affirmations and I'm going to do all the things. And then 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, 8 months go down the road and you fall back into old habits, old patterns, old stories. And then you bully yourself or beat yourself up about it. And then it comes back around again and you do the same thing all over again.
Yeah,
So it it's really just taking one day at a time. Like,
yeah,
okay, what can I change today?
yeah. Do you know, there's a little story. Last year I was struggling to, so I've sung in front of 40,000 people. I've done some TV work and so on, but getting in front of a camera and talking I found quite difficult. And even in the beginning, the podcasts were, I think, yeah, back then, I think I had just started the podcast and I was only doing audio at the time, audio
Mhm.
podcasts only. And I found it hard to get in front of a camera and talk. And so on New Year's Eve, I made a decision and I was going to challenge myself to 31 Facebook Lives in the month of January. early this year. And every single day I showed up in my Facebook group, did Facebook Lives. I started off with 5 minutes. By the end of that month, on the last day, I think I did like an hour and a half Facebook Live
Wow,
without
that's
any
awesome.
preparation, right?
Oh,
And
that's
then
awesome.
I've just consistently now doing videos, like especially with perfection, choose progress over perfection. Choose
Over
it.
perfection,
It's a
yes.
choice, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yes.
yeah. You don't have
Everything's a choice.
everything's a
Yeah,
choice.
we choose, yeah, we choose, everything's a choice. Like we choose
Choose
to wake up in the morning, we choose to
choose
get out of
ourselves.
bed, we choose to put, yeah,
Yeah,
we choose, it's like choose yourself then. Yes, yeah,
choose you. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm. Well, lastly, what mindset shifts or daily practices, aside from the mirror technique that you talked about, could do you suggest breaking free from these habits?
It doesn't matter how you identify journaling is probably the best thing. One of the best things anybody can do is like we have so many things cooped up in our heads that we just need to get out and let out and purge and release and let go, and just writing things out is journaling is really really impactful. And then I tell people, I'm like, take it a step further. It's like, okay, journal it, get it out, and then go and burn it. So then you're releasing it, you're letting it go, you
Yeah.
know. And
um,
because so many people, I'm like, I've had clients that have had journals upon journals upon journals that they just collected all these journals through the years, and it's like all that stuff is just sitting there. And what happens if you 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 grab it and you take it and you start opening up and you start reading again? Well, it's just going right back in. I see it's going right back inside. So the best thing you can do is write it out and then go and burn it. Like just let it go.
yeah.
Release
I
it.
mean, a good example is when you're in your house, you you have rubbish. You put it into your rubbish bin, maybe inside the
Hmm.
house. Then you empty it once a week and take it to the big bin and take it outside,
Yes.
and it goes right.
Yes.
That's clearing it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take that rubbish
And
out.
it's yeah, it's the same thing with like anything you're decluttering, anything you're letting go of. Like I've had people say, well, like they've brought miscellaneous food into the house and they don't want it. And it's like, well, first of all, don't bring it in the house. But if you still have it, what I want you to do is I want you to take it all and I
And get
want you to
rid of
go put it outside in the garbage
it.
can. Outside, away from not in your kitchen, because I will clearly admit I have done that before where I was, in that spins of emotional eating. And I'm like, oh, I know I put some cookies in the garbage bin. I'm going to go and get them out of the garbage and I'm going to eat them out of the garbage bin. I mean, it's happened before. Yes. But people will do that. So it's like taking that stuff and then taking it outside or dumping dish soap on it or something. It's like, just erasing it, letting it go, releasing, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
You don't need it,
Yeah.
yeah, we have a lot of mind clutter. So it's like decluttering your mind, like do a brain dump, and a brain dump is just getting it all out. It doesn't matter if you don't know what to write. Eventually your brain is going to start purging and releasing what you want to let go. And then just to take that step further, just going and burning it. So there's that. Doing gratitude, any
Mm,
kind of gratitude journaling, any kind of like what I do, rattling off the things I'm grateful for. That's another good thing. Getting out in nature, getting out in the space, out of our stagnation of what we put ourselves, especially now. I mean, well, here in the US, it's starting to be winter. I know it's probably starting to be summer there for you, but like winter here. And it's like what happens is we coop ourselves up in our homes and it gets the energy gets very stagnant and very stale, and just we get stuck in these little spaces and we do this hibernation. But no, we need to be out. Our bodies are meant to be out in
mm,
nature, out indoors, are meant to forage, are meant to graze, are meant to be out. And our legs and our bodies are made to be active, to walk.
mm.
And so, getting out in nature and doing what's necessary to just decompress and not hold in all that stuff that we tend
Yeah,
to hold on to. Yeah.
totally. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Liza. So before we kick into these five quickfire questions, if people have been listening to this episode and what you've shared, and they are inspired, they want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Well, I am on every social media platform, so you can find me anywhere. I'm sure you can just Google my name, first and last name, and you'll find a ton of things that'll pop up. But depending on which platform you're on, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Pinterest. I have a YouTube channel. I do have an Etsy store. My website is super easy. It's just my first and last name.com, and you can find all the information you need on there. I do offer a plethora of other services as well that are all listed on my website. And I do always offer a free session. You know, if you're really struggling and you're like, I just need to talk this out right now, and you're interested in maybe knowing what it looks like coaching together. It's like I always like to make sure that we at least have I like to make sure it's a fit for that person and a fit for me before we talk about any kind of programs or services or anything like that. So just getting on a call and finding out where they're at, where they want to get to, where they want to get to, and then talk about how to get there. And so I always
Mm,
offer that. So you can pretty much, yeah, find me all the places.
awesome. We'll put those links into the podcast
Yes.
description so that people can click on them and connect. And feel free
Yes.
to yeah, connect with Liza. So, quick fire questions. Here we go. Number one,
All
how do you define
right.
success, and has that definition changed for you over time?
Oh my goodness. Yes. So when I was younger, I was told that if I didn't do, X, Y, and Z, I would not be successful. And so I always thought, again, success was defined outside of myself, and success was defined on like I had to have the car or the house or the money or the big prestigious corporate job, or I had to be the CEO of this big corporation or something. I'm like, I had this definition of success that was completely um disarray. It was not what true success is. And so yeah, through the years, I've really just kind of reevaluated that and really redefined it as success is like is I define the parameters of what my own success looks like, just like you define the parameters of what success looks like for you. Some people's success might be being successful, might be they just got out of bed, they put on pants, they were able to eat something, they were able to take a shower, they took their vitamins. To me, that's successful. Like that's a form of success. So again, it's like my thought process is completely changed, has done a complete 180 as to what I define success as. And for me, it's like, okay, I'm today, the way for me to be successful is to be present in the moment. And that is a really hard thing to
Mm,
do, to just be present, because our mind wants to wander and our mind wants to focus on, ooh, what do I need to do next week or next month? Or I have to do this, or I have to take care of that, or I have to do, it's like, no. It's like, so that's one thing that's like, if I was able to be present in the moment today, that's successful to me.
mm, mm.
Yes.
Who's been your greatest inspiration and why?
I could probably name off a bunch of other people, but I would say it's me, because I feel like I've gone through multiple lifetimes to get to where I'm at right now. And every day I feel like I inspire myself just by the actions that I take. And I wouldn't, there were so many times in my life where I put myself in situations where I shouldn't be here. But I knew that even the minute little small part of me knew that there was something bigger and greater for me here. And so again, like I inspire myself. I think I'm my biggest inspiration because of the road that I've taken, the challenges I've had, the lifetime that I've had. I feel like I've had multiple lifetimes, you know, in one life. that have gotten me to where I'm at right now. So yeah, I would say me, I'm my own inspiration. And I think that should be for all of us. We should all be
Mm,
our own inspiration. Yes.
mm.
And not reach for some unattainable version of somebody else. Be your own version, our own inspiration to each other.
Yeah. Look how far you've come and look what you've achieved. And
Yes.
you've got so
Yes,
much more to
exactly.
achieve, yeah, and give. What is
Exactly.
something that you believe that others may disagree with?
Something that I believe that others disagree with. A lot of people, I a lot of people think that they can't change, like, "Oh, this is just the way I am and I'll never change, and it's just who I am." It's like, I call BS on that because everybody, if
Tried?
you want to, yeah, it's like, have you tried? It's like, but yet they complain that nothing's changing or nothing's shifting in their life. It's like, but I'm set in my ways and I'm set this way. And it's like, no, like, I can be very, I pride myself on speaking my truth. I pride myself on being vocal, and I'm gonna say my opinion whether a person likes it or not. It's like, if you're asking for my opinion, I'm gonna tell it to you like it is. And you you're never going to change if you don't change. You're never going to shift if you don't shift. So it's like, when a person says they can't change, it's like, I call BS on that because I know that you can. And if you really want it, you have to want it. If you really want change to happen, then you can make it happen.
Yeah. Nothing changes, nothing
Yeah.
changes.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could go back and give younger Liza some feedback or some one piece of advice, what would it be?
Keep going. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep going, and it'll be all right. Like, everything will work out okay. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Life is not a straight line. It's not linear. It's up and
No.
down. It's over sideways,
Yes. Yeah.
and you just got to learn to adapt and pivot and adapt and pivot and adapt and keep going forward. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
Um, what is one message that you would like to share with the world?
One message I would like to share with the world, that it's not selfish to love yourself. It's not selfish to take care of yourself, because again, self-care is not just, the mani pedis and stuff like that. Self-care is that radical act. It's, learn to prioritize yourself, your well-being, loving yourself, just taking care of yourself. And it's not narcissistic to love yourself. And because in order for us to truly love and take care of another person, it all starts within ourselves. And so learning to love ourselves first. And that would be the one piece of advice. It's like, just learn to, you don't even have to love yourself in the beginning, just appreciate yourself. It's like, what is
Mm,
one thing that you can appreciate yourself about? Like, what
mm,
is one thing that you do that
mm,
you really appreciate,
mm.
and just start with that, and eventually it'll turn to love.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. 100%. Yeah. Well, thank you, Liza, for joining us on the
Yeah.
Champion Mindset Collective podcast. It's been a pleasure having you here, and would love to get you
Yes.
back for another episode. And in the future, doing some workshops or master classes
Yes.
next year.
I'd love
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So if
I'd
you've
love
been listening
that.
to this episode and you've got some insights and you've learned something new and you want to connect with Liza, please do so. I will put the links in the show notes. Also, if you want to connect with me, feel free to share this episode with someone who could benefit from listening to this, and also follow and subscribe to it so that you don't miss any future episodes. And lastly, I just want to say you are loved, you are worthy, champion your life, and champion your greatness, and have an amazing day.
Hmm.